Hi, I'm Eric Johnson here at Owen Graduate School of Management, and I'm here today with Tracy Keogh. Tracy is the Chief Human Resources Officer at HP. And we're so glad to have you here today, Tracy.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me join you.
Well, human resources and managing human resources has changed a lot over the last decade, and it's been a career for you. When you think about the role of the human resource officer, how do you see it and how do you see it changing?
So I think it's the most important part of the business. That's why I'm in it, because it's always about the people at the end of the day. So that, I think, is a constant. That hasn't changed. I think what you're seeing more now is how much more strategic it's become. And it really, I think most enlightened organizations really put a lot of value in their human resources function. I think the biggest thing that's changing now that I see is the move of technology into HR. And I always tell young HR leaders, learn as much technology as you can. Analytics, AI, deep learning, all those things that are coming, even blockchain. It's important to understand those aspects of the business because it's going to impact everything that we're doing. So I think that, in the old days you'd say, oh, learn finance or your business acumen has to be high. That's table stakes now. You now, and I think a differentiator for HR is really going to be understanding technology, because you want to create an incredible experience inside an organization for your employees that's like a customer or consumer experience that they get outside dealing with different technologies. So you're going to have to be smart about that in the future.
Well, in an engineering-heavy organization like HP, I often see cases where people get promoted and HR has to kind of coach them along, help them stop doing things they were successful at to make it to the next level, kind of that what got you here won't get you there kind of idea. How do you do that? How does HR come alongside and help managers grow in their new roles?
So, look, every HR organization is very lean now. And so there's no way you can manage every people process. You have to have your managers be the key element that's going to create an environment. People always say, employees don't leave companies, they leave their managers, right? Yeah. So we really focus on the manager as sort of the fulcrum of the organization. And so we do everything we can to make managers successful. It's funny that you would take someone who's good at a set of skills and promote them into something that's a totally different requirement, dealing with people. And they may have been a great engineer, but they don't really know about managing people. So we have courses that we give to managers. We have a thing we call Manager Central. And so every month we put things out there for managers to communicate to their employees so they can talk to them, they can engage with them. We also do a lot of work around employee engagement so that we identify managers who themselves are either have low engagement levels or their teams are not highly engaged, and we do interventions with them. So we go in and we train them. We may give that manager a coach. So we figure out ways that we can address a manager, all with the intent in mind to make that manager as successful as possible, because what we see is highly engaged managers have much more highly engaged teams, and they produce more and are, ultimately it's more productive for the organization.
What are some of the career stalling behaviors you see?
It depends on the person. So I think it's important for people to take risks, right? I think people who just want to stay in their own little shell and do the same thing they've always done, that's not great for a career. And so what we like to say at HP is, there's not a career ladder anymore. It's sort of a climbing wall that you go up sometimes, you go down sometimes. So I think sometimes when people are too rigid about, I want to go a particular direction, that will stall a career, because you need to know all different things now. Our organization is much flatter than it used to be. And so we want to make sure that people are learning different skill sets so when opportunities do come up that they can move into new roles. So I think that's a stalling behavior. Not focusing on people that you're managing could be a problem. It's not just about what you do, but it's how you help others do more. That's really important to be successful. I think being your true authentic self now, more than ever in my career, I think people are much more personal at work, right? There's not as much of I'm going to go in with a very, false kind of front of being a business professional. I think that people that personal touch actually makes people more loyal and more interested in what you're doing, and actually can make you a better leader. So, transparency is important. People are very smart these days about understanding if you're not telling the truth or if you're spinning something. And I don't think people really want to have that at work. So I think being open, honest, and transparent, and I think also humility is important. So people want to follow servant leaders more than necessarily, big, personality leaders. And so we see a lot of I think that fits in our culture very well, where you have people who are kind of very excited about what they're doing, they're mission driven, and then people want to work with them.
Well, certainly authenticity is the watchword these days.
Yeah.
Though I've got to believe in HR, sometimes you get nervous about people being a little too authentic, right?
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you can have bad behavior.
That's right.
So we don't really want that much authenticity, no. But it's actually, I think it's important for, people to, you have to understand your environment and what's appropriate, but I think it's a positive that you can be a more integrated self between work and home and everything, that it makes work much more enjoyable. And when you bring your whole self to work, as we like to say, I think you can have a greater impact, and it increases your productivity and what you can do in that environment.
Yeah. Well, you've been hinting at this a little bit. I'm kind of wondering your thoughts about what the workforce of the future is going to look like as we look out over the next decade, 2025, 2030.
Right.
What do you expect to see?
I think changes are coming quickly. I think, I was just reading a report this morning about, 75 million jobs are going to go away in the next 7 years as we implement a lot more AI and different, technologies that are available. And so I think the most important thing, at the same token, they said this was the World Economic Forum, they said 133 million new jobs will be created, but those are going to be different jobs. So I think the most important thing is for us to keep learning. Everybody needs to keep reinventing themselves. And, I think it will be an exciting time. I think it's one of the best times for HR right now, because we're going to have to lead through this change. First of all, there are not enough people out there that have the new skill sets that we need. And for example, at HP, we've already started retraining programs. We're changing, for example, in our finance organization, even the personas we're looking at from a finance level. We want people who have greater skills, that are much more visionary around different topics and strategic, versus people are going to just process papers, because that kind of work's going to go away. But then how do you take those folks and raise their skill set so they can think of new ways to do things and add value in different ways? And so, retraining people and putting people in new roles and new opportunities, HR is going to be critical in managing that moving forward. So I think the future's now, as I like to say, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities. That being said, we have 5 generations of people working at our company right now, and they all have different needs. And so you're going to have to be able to respond to the person that wants to work in a quiet environment with a closed office door, as well as creating open and collaborative environments where people want to, sit in the middle of a coffee shop and work on their laptop to get work done. And so how are you managing that across those different groups to be able to create a successful environment for your organization? I think that's another thing HR is going to have to work on. So, I think it's just going to be very interesting, and I think a time where HR can show how much they can lead an organization into the future, starting right now. So a lot of us are doing a lot of work on the future of work, in our various organizations.
So across your career, you've been on your own leadership journey and now manage a large organization. Can you share a leadership lesson of your own from along the way?
So, one thing I would say is to take different opportunities that are offered to you. Sometimes, they may be a risk. It's important to take risks in your career, and they may be things that you hadn't thought, oh, I'm going to do this. The first HR job I ever had, someone said, you want to do this? I said, no, I don't want to. And then I said, there's too many things you have to fix here. And I listed them, and the CEO said, you got the job. That's how I became head of HR. And I didn't think, oh, that's the thing I would want to do. I loved HR when I got into it. So I would say take as many career risks as possible. Even sometimes you might take an opportunity, it doesn't work out. You'll learn from that. And it's how you deal with when things don't work out that makes you successful or not. It's not having everything be perfect, but it's managing, failures or challenges in a way that you can be successful and take those lessons into your next role that will make you really, I think, highly impactful throughout your career. And more than ever, with things changing, I would say take risks. Someone asks you to do a new job that you really don't know about, figure out how to learn about it, and then you'll be able to deliver over time, and you'll learn a new skill set through the process.
Well, Tracy, thank you so much for spending the day with us at Vanderbilt.
Good. Thank you.